Today we're going to tell you the storyline of a movie called Hanna from the year 2011. As the title suggested, the movie Hanna told the story of a teenage girl named Hanna. She was a 16-year-old girl who had been trained to be a killing machine. One day, Hanna was given a mission that required her to cross Europe. During her mission, she was chased by a dangerous intelligence agent named Marissa Wiegler who was a threat to her life. So without further ado, let's get watching. The movie starts with Hanna when she was hunting a deer in the middle of a very cold forest. With her incredible abilities, she quickly overcame the deer. While Hanna was removing the deer's guts, her father, Eric Heller, attacked her. It turned out that Eric was testing Hanna's abilities. According to him, Hanna had to always be cautious wherever she went. As punishment for her carelessness, Hanna had to carry the deer back home alone, despite the fact that the deer's weight was several times her own body weight. However, it seemed that Hanna easily carried the deer all the way home. Hanna was a very strong and intelligent child. Besides being able to fight and kill, Hanna even mastered many languages. Eric was the one who had trained her all along. He trained Hanna's physical and intellectual abilities, giving her all the information slowly from books he had. In addition, Eric also trained Hanna to remember false scenarios about her life, from fake names to pet animals. Before going to sleep, Hanna took the time to open her favorite Grimm fairy tale book. In the book, there was a photo of an unknown woman, and Hanna just stared at the woman's photo. In the middle of her sleep, Hanna was once again startled by an attack from Eric. At the end of the fight, Hanna said that she was ready. Hearing that, Eric went out of the house to get something he had buried in the yard, and the next day, Eric gave a box to Hanna. Eric explained that the box would emit a signal to someone named Marissa Wiegler. Through that signal, Marissa could locate Hanna's whereabouts. But before that, Eric asked Hanna to think carefully because once she flicked the switch, Marissa wouldn't stop chasing her. And Eric said that he would keep the box with him until she really is ready. The next day, Eric invited Hanna for hunting. But Hanna said that she was not interested and chose to stay at home. After Eric left, Hanna decided to press the button on the transmitter box. When Eric returned, he realized that Hanna had finally flicked the transmitter switch. At first, Eric was calm, but he felt tension within himself for some reason. On the other hand, in the United States, the signal was already received by Marissa. She immediately deployed her team to go to the signal point, and because the box emitted a signal in Eric's name, of course, Marissa explained who Eric was to all of her team. Eric was a former Czech CIA agent in 1991, but in 1966 a woman named Johanna Zadek was shot with evidence of a weapon that had Eric's fingerprints on it. Since then, Eric had disappeared. Johanna was Eric's recruit in 1964, with a reason that Marissa did not want to disclose. Marissa explained her plan. She wanted Eric to be arrested immediately without revealing the issue to other intelligence agencies. Before Marissa's team arrived, Eric prepared himself and changed his appearance. Eric dictated his fake scenario to Hanna again, and where they would meet again, which was at Wilhelm Grimm's house in Berlin, Germany. In the evening, the team had already surrounded Hanna's house. Hanna remained calm and stayed in her house. Marissa eventually heard what happened there. Knowing that Eric was not found, Marissa was very angry. But everything changed when she learned that there was a little girl there. Hanna was lightly interrogated, and she even asked to meet Marissa. When her name was mentioned, Marissa was willing to meet Hanna. After waiting for a while, a woman came to see Hanna, but when she turned around, it was not Marissa. This woman was just a substitute. Hanna threw several questions that only Marissa knew, and since the woman was using a communication device, she could answer them smoothly. In the middle of their conversation, Hanna suddenly cried and hugged the fake Marissa. Marissa's partner named Louis asked the fake Marissa to stay away from Hanna because he felt suspicious hearing Hanna's crying. But the fake Marissa didn't suspect anything, and sure enough, while in confusion and searching for a way out, Hanna found a ventilation hole that connected to the laboratory room. There, Hanna threatened the lab guard to let her go, and soon found her own file and took it with her. On the other hand, Marissa was seen burning a file she took from the closet in her house. While burning the file, Marissa remembered the past, seeing young Hanna in the car with Eric, and Johanna, who was said to be shot by Eric. But in this memory, it appeared that Marissa was the one who shot Johanna. Seeing the empty car, Marissa then searched for them around, but she only found Johanna. Before taking her last breath, Johanna said that Marissa would never be able to get Hanna. Returning to Hanna, in the midst of a rather tiring journey, she met two children who were picnicking with their families. They were Sophie and Miles. Their conversation was brief as Sophie and Miles were called by their parents to continue their journey. Initially, Hanna planned to join them, but she changed her mind and only watched Sophie leave. On the other hand, Eric was seen still trying to get to the meeting place between him and Hanna. Eric even had to swim across the ocean. Back to Hanna again. When she found a remote settlement, she saw mothers washing clothes on the riverbank. This gave Hanna an opportunity to steal one of the clothes. After changing her clothes, Hanna saw firsthand how human social life was. She was very amazed because Hanna had been living isolated and very far from modernity. Hanna then went to an inn, and because she could speak various languages, she asked where she was. The innkeeper informed her that she was in Morocco. Seeing that it was already night, Hanna asked the innkeeper for permission to stay overnight. Fortunately, the hotel owner was kind-hearted and allowed Hanna to stay. When Hanna entered the room, she was again amazed and confused by all the advancements in the world, although her room was relatively simple. All the sophistication made her dizzy, so she decided to get some fresh air outside. While running, Hanna accidentally met Sophie and Miles again. They looked confused when they suddenly met Hanna. On the other hand, Marissa had arrived in Morocco. As per her team's information, Marissa met with a man named Sebastian and informed him that Eric was still alive and asked him to bring Hanna back alive, no matter what. Back to Hanna, Sophie invited her to have dinner with her family. Here, Hanna revealed that she was doing solo traveling with her parents' permission, which eased Sophie and Miles' parents' suspicion towards her. At night, Hanna saw the results of the laboratory notes, but she didn't understand what was written there. However, she noticed a note stating that she had abnormal DNA. The next day, Sophie's family continued their journey, but Sophie's father complained about a hole above their van, which was actually caused by Hanna sneaking into the van before they boarded it. Hanna hid under the storage box under the bed. Miles realized Hanna's presence, but he didn't tell anyone. On the other hand, after Hanna's departure, the hotel owner was captured and interrogated by Sebastian's men, but he didn't know where Hanna was. Unfortunately, Sebastian's men found CCTV footage of Hanna boarding Sophie's van, and the hotel owner found out where they were going to Spain via a ferry. After achieving what he wanted, Sebastian ended the hotel owner's life, but he was unlucky because Sophie's family had already left on the ferry. Long story short, Eric finally arrived at the beach, but he was caught by two police officers and as a result, both officers were killed. Marissa and Luis heard about this incident. Luis asked Marissa to report it to Interpol and to stop keeping the mission a secret as the situation had become very chaotic. However, Marissa insisted on capturing Eric and Hanna herself. Meanwhile, Eric was resting in a hotel and soon received a postcard from Hanna that read "The witch is dead." At that time, Hanna was not aware that she had not actually killed the real Marissa. In brief, the Sophie family was resting while Hanna was alone in the van. Seeing the van was empty, she tried to get out, but Miles noticed her. Since his family was at the front door, Miles told Hanna to exit from the back door. When Hanna ran out, Sebastian's henchmen were already there and they immediately reported Hanna's whereabouts to Sebastian. Hanna felt thirsty and decided to drink water from the swimming pool. Suddenly, Sophie emerged from the pool and was surprised to see Hanna there. Sophie guessed that Hanna was the one who damaged their van. Hanna felt guilty and apologized, but Sophie asked Hanna to help her approach two teenage boys as a way of apology, and even promised that Hanna could stay with her without her parents' knowledge. Hearing that, Hanna agreed. She enjoyed the night like any other teenager, having fun at night from listening to music to riding a motorcycle together. Hanna looked very happy. While Hanna was enjoying her youth, Sebastian arrived at the campsite and found Sophie's tent, but luckily only Miles was there. On the other hand, Hanna was resting in the tent with Sophie. There, Sophie asked Hanna to be honest about her life if she wanted to be her friend. However, Hanna said that she couldn't tell anything. The point was that she was being chased by bad people and didn't want to drag Sophie's family into this problem. Hearing that, Sophie gave Hanna a friendship bracelet so that Hanna would always remember her wherever she went. After that, Hanna showed her DNA paper. Sophie apparently understood a little about DNA, so she was a little surprised to learn about Hanna's DNA results. Hanna then told her about her plan to meet her father at the Wilhelm Grimm house in Berlin. Miles overheard all of the conversations too. The next day, Sophie finally told about Hanna's presence. She panicked looking for Hanna because she was afraid that Hanna would go alone again. Previously, Sophie had promised to give a ride to Hanna. But shortly after, Hanna suddenly arrived, giving fresh meat to cook. When they continued their journey, Sebastian and his men were ready to follow Sophie's car from behind. On the other hand, Eric had already arrived at the Berlin bus terminal, followed by some unknown individuals. Sensing that something was amiss, Eric attacked them. After successfully defeating all of them, Eric heard Marissa's name mentioned on the radio, and from there, he realized that the witch was not dead. Meanwhile, at the hotel, Marissa was resting while listening to a recording of Johanna's voice to her mother. Shortly after, her phone rang and it turned out to be Eric. Marissa immediately asked Louis to send a technician to tap her phone while stalling for time by talking about the past and regretting Eric's actions towards her. Not long after, Louis heard a knock on the door, thinking that it was the technician. However, it turned out to be Eric. Hanna and Sophie's family had been on a very long journey. Hanna realized that a car had been following them since earlier, while at the same time, Sophie's mother felt that they had taken the wrong turn and had to pull over to read the map. Knowing that something was wrong, Hanna forbade Sophie's mother from stopping the car, but unfortunately, she insisted and pulled over. Hanna was very panicked, as she didn't want this family to become target of the evil people who were after her. Therefore, Hanna decided to get out, but before that, she asked Sophie not to follow her and thanked her for being her friend. Unfortunately, in the midst of the fight, Sophie, who had secretly followed them, suddenly appeared and finally found out who Hanna really was. To protect Sophie, Hanna was forced to attack the bad guys in front of Sophie and flee. As a result of that night's events, Sophie's family was kidnapped and interrogated. Sophie's parents had no idea about Hanna. Meanwhile, Sophie insisted on keeping her mouth shut and hiding all of Hanna's secrets. But there was Miles in the tent that night, and he was just a gullible little boy. Marissa explained that she just wanted to save Hanna from danger, and of course, that was enough to fool Miles. He eventually told them about Hanna's plan to go meet her father at Wilhelm Grimm's house in Berlin. Hanna finally arrived in Berlin and managed to find Wilhelm Grimm's house. A man named Knepfler, Eric's friend, greeted her warmly. There, Knepfler showed Hanna a magic trick that produced a letter, and even allowed her to rest for a while. But unfortunately, not long after, they heard the sound of a car approaching, and it turned out to be Marissa and Sebastian. Knepfler asked Hanna to hide upstairs. While hiding, Hanna accidentally overheard Marissa and Sebastian's conversation, revealing that Eric was not Hanna's biological father, but that Hanna was just an experimental program in creating humans with superior abilities. After Marissa left, Hanna immediately distanced herself from the house and searched for information about what she had heard. She went to an internet cafe to find out about DNA experiments and information about Eric. Among the news, she found an address and decided to try to go there. Meanwhile, Eric had just arrived at Wilhelm Grimm's house. Luckily, he realized something was amiss there, so he immediately left the house. Eric then went to Johanna's mother's house, where Hanna was already there. Hanna asked for an explanation about her status as Eric's non-biological child, and about the experiment she heard from Marissa. Reluctantly, Eric finally explained what had happened. Hanna was born in a research facility through an experimental program aimed at creating humans who had no sense of fear and compassion, and all of it would be focused on muscle power and senses, with the goal of creating the perfect soldiers. Johanna was recruited by Eric from an abortion clinic along with 20 other women. Actually, there were other children that were just like Hanna, but when Hanna was 2 years old, Marissa closed the research and obliterated all the children from the experiment. However, Hanna herself was saved by Eric. Although Hanna was not his biological child, Eric hoped that Hanna would still consider him as a father, because after all, Hanna had been raised by Eric as his own child. All of these explanations were not enough for Hanna, and she felt truly disappointed. In the midst of the argument, Eric saw a suspicious car. Eric then asked Hanna to run away from there, while he himself attacked Sebastian and his men. Eric was shot and killed during the fight. Realizing this, Hanna returned to Wilhelm Grimm's house, only to find out that Knepfler was already hanged, lifeless. While she was mourning the loss of her father and Knepfler, Hanna suddenly heard a voice approaching from outside the house. It turned out to be Marissa. Hanna ran away as Marissa chased her from behind. Hanna got trapped, and she asked Marissa to stay away because she didn't want to hurt anyone anymore, and asked Marissa to let her go. However, Marissa had no intention of letting Hanna go and shot her. Fortunately, the bullet only hit Hanna's hip. Seeing Marissa running away, Hanna immediately chased after her. A chase ensued between them until Marissa was about to shoot Hanna again, but she accidentally slipped, hit her head, and fell helplessly down a slide. Hanna approached her, took Marissa's gun, and finally, the movie ended. What do you think of this movie? Drop your thoughts in the comments section below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to support our recap channel. And if you have any movie you want us to recap, please do tell us in the comments section as well. And until next time.